So lovely to be with you. My name is Mary-Claire Marshall and I'm in the ABBA show that is playing at the Swedish Club on April the 26th. ABBA was quite a big part of my childhood. I remember that ABBA hits were played all the time on the radio in London, which is where I grew up in England. So I knew SOS, and Dancing Queen, Take a Chance on Me. All of their big hits were really part of my childhood soundtrack. And then I auditioned for an ABBA tribute band when I was fresh out of drama school and got the job. And that's when I really started picking apart ABBA and having a listen to the harmonies and the melodies. And really that's when I got a real excitement about just how fabulous they were. And really when I then went on to create my own tribute to them, that love of what's truly great about them came with me. And I really, because I'm the singer, or one of the singers, the sound that the girls from ABBA made was really important to me, trying to recreate that wonderful sound. Frida, who is the redhead in ABBA, really had a lower voice and brought warmth and depth to their sound. Agneta has this fabulous, high, clear sounding voice, and together they just make this amazing sound. So really it was my love of the sound of their voices that really started me on a journey to try and make a truly great ABBA tribute. We spend time capturing that ABBA sound in rehearsal. When it comes to performance, we absolutely add our own flair to the performances. And we have come up with these characters for the original Swedish group, who are quite far removed from the originals. They are fun comedy characters. So Agneta and Frida and Benny and Bjorn and Ola are very flamboyant and over-the-top people in the ABBA show. And the matching of those two things really seems to work well, because people want to hear the authentic, great sound of those records that they remember and love, and they also want a fun show. And I think that, and I hope that we have managed to bring both of those things together. We have the original generation who remembers them coming to our shows. We have my generation, which remembers Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia 2, and then we have a brand new TikTok generation that is making up dances to these songs and discovering them afresh. And so it's really great to see all of those generations at shows.
Lovely day, and it's the month of April, so you know what that means. On the 26th of this month, it's ABBA night, and we're all excited, aren't we?
We are so excited.
It's ABBA month and ABBA day.
Oh,
ABBA everything.
We are talking about ABBA today, and we have Sofia Taylor here, our very good friend.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So we're so excited to have you here, Sofia. And so you're Swedish and you're here in Seattle. What was your journey like? Where did you start and how did you end up here?
Okay, I was born in Sweden. I was in Sweden till I was about 10, and then my family moved to the UK. That's why my version of English sounds like this.
You can all hear that.
Yeah,
it sounds
and then
lovely.
I was at the Swedish school there. So it was a upbringing with a lot of British culture and a lot of Swedish culture, all lovely muddle. And then I ended up between these two countries. I actually started working in Sweden. And for me, it was always theatre. I always wanted to work behind the stage. And that journey eventually took me back to London, because obviously if you're working in theatre, you need to get back into the West End. So I did that, and that was great. I started at the National Theatre there, and then eventually got a lovely job in the West End, which was kind of where I wanted to be ever since I was 10, and saw Bugsy Malone, the musical, on stage.
Oh, I love Bugsy Malone.
Yeah. Lots of kids on stage in, T-Fords, kind of, it's brilliant, pie throwing. Anyway, so I ended up in the West End in a production office and loved it. And that's where an Englishman sailed past my desk who eventually got a job at Microsoft in the UK. And that Englishman asked if I wanted to move to Seattle a little later.
And the rest is history.
So 2008, we rocked up here with a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old in tow.
So now we sit here at the Swedish Club, of course. What's your relationship with the Swedish Club?
Well, turning up like that with 2 young children, I of course knew what it was, or what it's like to grow up with 2 cultures, and you need to kind of work at it, otherwise it doesn't happen. So lucky for me, someone called Stina Cowan had started a Swedish school.
Lucky you.
At the Swedish Club. And so that's where we were. We were here every Sunday with the kids and made sure that they got lessons in reading and writing, and an awful lot of Pippi Långstrump and Astrid Lindgren and all of the good stuff. And that was kind of important. And I think the main thing was for them to hear other kids speak Swedish.
And it's so important, I think, to have that exposure to both your cultures. And so how many years have you been in Seattle now?
Is it 17 or something?
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're not at the Swedish Club, what is your favorite thing to do in Seattle?
Well, I go and see a lot of shows, a lot of theatre. There's a pretty good theatre scene here. And I think that was actually when my husband was like, do you want to move to Seattle? And I then started doing some research. I realized I actually already knew about some of the theatres here, and I knew about some of the art schools. Cornish Institute is a brilliant art school, and they had tentacles into London back then when I was working there. I knew about them in the casting office there at the National. We knew about Cornish. So it I knew that a lot of good people come out of Seattle. Mm-hmm. And it is a very, as I understand it, welcoming community to working artists, or at least it was before COVID. And I think during COVID, they've stuck it out together. I think it's, I don't know if it's seen as stronger now than it was beforehand, but because we're still waiting for the audience to really come back.
Yeah,
but I see a lot of theatre.
And I just happened to know that you saw something very ABBA related the other day, or was it yesterday?
It was yesterday, yeah.
What was it?
Chess. They put on chess at the Cornish Playhouse, the Cornish Institute, the school. So it's a school production, university students. And they did chess, and it was great. And the ensemble sang fantastic. The choir numbers were brilliant.
And for those our listeners who don't know what chess is, can you tell us?
So it's a musical written by Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus together with Tim Rice. So it's funny actually, because the lyrics are Tim Rice's, they're not Björn's. And usually Björn is the one that writes the lyrics, or used to be the one that wrote the lyrics, and Benny always is the music part. But they did the music together on chess, as I understand it, and then involved Tim Rice. And it's their first musical that they tried. So I think there's been a big journey for them to understand to trust themselves and trust their instincts, and not take in so many other creatives. From my perspective, I think it's part of a journey. So if you see all of the musicals they've done and all the stuff they've been involved in, you can hear how it all sort of starts there. There's a lot of influence there. Well, you can hear it on the ABBA albums, particularly the more operatic ones. You can kind of hear, there's a musical lurking in there.
Mm. What is it like? What are they like? How is it like to work with them? We're so starstruck, I think, that you have actually worked with Björn and Benny. Yeah. Have you met all of them?
I have, yeah. So I think so. I ended up in Sweden when I was working in Sweden. I ended up at the National there, Dramaten, and there was a new musical that was going to be put on. It was Mio min Mio, which is a book by Astrid Lindgren.
Oh, I love that book. One of my favorites.
Yeah. And they had commissioned Benny to write the music and Kristina Lugn to write the lyrics. And Kristina Lugn was a Swedish poet, and she was very quirky and funny and unusual character, big hair. And she couldn't read music, and Benny didn't particularly write music or sheet music. So what he did to help her write the lyrics for this musical was he recorded a track with himself singing nonsense. So she knew where to put words, but it was nonsense. And Kristina, being Kristina, immediately remembered all these words that Benny had written that was kind of complete nonsense. So that's how she sang the whole musical from the auditorium. She sat there. Yeah, it's kind of funny. So I was a production assistant at Dramaten at the time. And so I greeted Benny at the stage door and said, hey, welcome to Dramaten. And I gave him I just gave him a list of everyone involved and all their contact details. And in the elevator going up to the main stage, he says to me, "This is a first."
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, oh, okay. And then a little later, a few weeks in, he asks if I want to join him and his team with bringing the musical Kristina från Duvemåla from Gothenburg up to Stockholm.
Wow.
And I said, you know what, I'll think about it. No, I was delighted. So that's how that happened. So then I started, my first job was figure out what the actual theatre needs to look like. We're moving into circus and it needs renovating. How do we do that so that it best suits us? And so I designed the stage door. It was a bizarre thing. Why did I do that? But that's what it was. And tried to figure out that we need how to get into the theatre and what it would look like backstage. And because we knew exactly what was coming in, the amount of costumes, we could make some very particular choices. And there was a choir of 30 and, all the leads were like 15 of them. There were 10 kids. It was a massive production. So we kind of designed it accordingly.
And Kristina från Duvemåla, of course, is based on the trilogy by Vilhelm Moberg. Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
Yeah, so Kristina från Duvemåla is a book that was written then was it written in the 50s? I want to say 1950s.
Yes.
And Vilhelm Moberg did a lot of research in Minnesota and cycled around figuring out the stories he wanted to write. I think it's based on his own family history.
I think so.
But it's a fictive sort of story. And he, Björn and Benny had decided to have a go at writing a musical about this. It was an epic 4-hour production. And they have tried to... they have translated it and they've had concerts in the US with it, but it doesn't quite have international legs. It's just too epic and I think a little too sad. That's kind of the comment, So it sort of ends with her dying.
But what about Les Mis? Isn't that as sad?
It's also very sad. Yeah, it hasn't quite worked. I don't know. Maybe they're still trying.
That's so funny because it's so relatable because it's part of the immigration to America.
Yes.
So a lot of people have family who came here.
So they played a concert at Carnegie and it's got a lovely English translation. I actually don't think it works as well in English. I think some of the words that Björn managed to write in Swedish are straight out of Vilhelm Moberg and it just feels so authentic. And it doesn't quite carry the same authenticity in English. It's just a little too polished. Somehow. It's a funny one.
So when you worked with Björn and Benny, did they talk at all about ABBA or was that like a topic that you avoided or would they like start singing suddenly if you asked them or something like that?
No, they would talk about ABBA if you wanted to talk about ABBA. I mean, the offices were, part of the office was, and we kept growing as because I was one of the early Stockholm employees. So we kept taking in more and more people and sort of, and we'll build another room here and we'll expand into this corner of the building. And so that half of that building was the recording studio, Benny's recording studio. And so he was always in there and other people would turn up to record stuff. And we had sort of a lot of stuff going on that wasn't connected to this musical as we set up for it. So we were working on that end of the building. But Benny was very much there. That was sort of his office. Björn wasn't as present there. But early days, we were all sort of a bit hands-on, which was kind of fun. I remember doing an Excel spreadsheet, trying to figure out who was going to get paid for what sort of job in the musical. So we divided it up that if this day, Maria is going to be playing the guitar and she's also playing the teacher and she's going to be that character and that character. So we kind of, put X's in the Excel document for all of this and that would add up her pay. And as I'm sitting there trying to figure out this document, I suddenly have Björn hovering over my shoulder going, you know what, I wonder if you press that, if you could. So we're actually working on creating an Excel document, Björn Ulvaeus and I. I mean, how silly is that? And he came back the next day and he'd be like, I'd sat at home and tried to figure this thing out. And actually, how about this?
So did you feel like this was kind of typical Swedish behavior? We talk about, how Swedes are always kind of humble, down to earth, jantelag, and like one of the team. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Mm-hmm. And they were very much colleagues. Mm-hmm. And there were people outside the door. Germans had come in and were standing out there with notepads wanting autographs. And it just felt so bizarre in the context of here we are making this musical happen, this big production. And luckily it was a great success. I mean, it could have played Friday, Saturday, Sunday for many, many more years if we wanted to. But so I think it just felt like they had that it sort of came with them. but it didn't influence working with them.
Did they still sign the autographs, or were they kind of?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they did. They did. But I think their sort of how chill they were about it changed how that worked. I mean, you could have a conversation then as the fan outside on the doorstep with Benny for a bit, and so people would be very nervous about meeting them, but then they just sort of relaxed because they were so chill about it. It's like, here we are.
And they must be so close from having worked together for so long too, like as friends.
Yes, and I think, and so the Görel Hanser, who is she's everything. She executive managing director. I don't know her title right now, but she started her career as the assistant to Stickan Andersson, that was the producer of ABBA, and eventually became the person to run this operation of whatever they get up to, Mono Music. So she also is a very soft-spoken, short, tiny person that you don't want to miss. You know, she's the engine behind it.
Is she still
sets the tone.
active?
Yeah, she is.
Oh, wow.
Did you ever meet Agneta or Anni-Frid?
I did. So the first time, let's see, I think the first time was probably in London. So was it in London, or was it? It could have been Görel's birthday. She had a very big birthday party, which was rather epic, where we suddenly had an ABBA reunion on stage because they sang a birthday song.
The only reunion ever, I think.
Well, there's been one or two, like little sort of quiet ones. So they all suddenly went up on stage and sang a song that Benny had written to Görel called Briggens blåögda blonda kapten, which was, Briggen was the name of the company, of the production company. And they sang a birthday song. And we're all sitting there kind of realizing what's happening. Like, oh my God. But I didn't get introduced to them until we were in London. And that was for Mamma Mia, when they were there for a show, to see it, to watch it. So I wasn't actually seeing that show that evening, but we all met up at the same hotel and got to do some hellos and just introduce ourselves.
So did you work on Mamma Mia too, or no?
No, Björn and Benny knew that I had my parents back in the UK and that I had this idea that I wanted to go back there. And so they said, well, do you want to come with us? And we're doing this musical called Mamma Mia. And I remember a fun conversation with Björn about that. He was like, yeah, you won't believe it. This woman, Catherine Johnson, she's written this script and it's like not about ABBA. It's such a relief. It's about something else, but it's got our music. I'm like, wow, can you do that? That's amazing. And I said, does it have that song, you know, school bag in hand, she leaves home? And he's like, oh my God, yes, it does. Like, that's brilliant. And so we were really kind of excited by it. And then he's like, you should come over to London then. You come with us when we do the first Sitzprobe. So it's the first time the cast meets the orchestra. And
that's so funny. That song is such a beautiful song. And my kids actually play that song sometimes to torture me because it's about the kids growing up and leaving their parents. So they like to see if they can make me cry.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
They're cruel.
That's
cruel.
So
it's a true story.
That's brilliant. Yeah, so I went back home and then came into London on the day of and picked up Björn at his hotel. The taxi driver he says to me as we're waiting and Björn comes out from the hotel, he says, hey, love, I think I know who your mate is. Like, yeah, I know who my mate is. And then we drove over to the theatre and I got to be introduced, or they introduced me to their producer. But the funny thing was I was there hoping that I was going to get some contacts that were going to lead to work in London. The production team, particularly, not the director because he knew who I was, but everyone else thought, and I understood this a little later, that I was family because we were so chummy, Björn, Benny and I. And there was this sort of thought, and I was in my mid-20s, and it was kind of, is this their daughter? Is this a relative? Why, who is she? And so that wasn't clarified. And of course, why would it have been? I mean, they were pretty busy with what they needed to do. But I got a list of contacts, but that didn't actually lead to working with them, with that producer or with that team. But there was a few of those people that gave me some tips and advice. But the actual in for me in London was through the National Theatre. So the National in Sweden gave me an opening at the National in London.
So were they just hardworking guys, or do you have any scandalous parties to talk? Maybe you can't share.
There were parties. We had some epic parties at Cirkus, at this theatre where we had this Swedish musical. And of course, it turned out that half the choir were brilliant folk dancers and the other half played some instrument that, everyone could play accordion. And then we had Orsa Spelemän come in and play for us and entertain us, a real sort of folk musicians from Dalarna. And there was an awful lot of vodka drunk. And it was a good time.
They are Swedes after all.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
What about at Dramaten, the famous theater. Did you meet any cool people,
I did.
legendary people there?
I did. I got to meet Ingmar Bergman finally. I did have a driving license, but I didn't get to drive.
But he wasn't as humble and down to earth as Benny and Björn, or was he? The rumor
he
goes.
came across as shy, actually. He was standing there in his Lodenrock. He always wore these coats. Do you remember the woolly coats? I didn't get to work with him, but he was working with the producer that I was assisting. So I got to say hi and shake his hand. And, you know, it won't be something he remembers or remembered, but I do. And a few other very cool actors and actresses that were at that theatre at the time. Don't know if you know Margareta Krook. She's no longer around, but she was a very, very cool actress. And she did an amazing Maria Callas play about Maria Callas that she did at the National. And she was seen as quite stern and a little frightening to approach. And she said to me one day, she was sitting down in this office and I walked past and she's like, "Oh, här kommer fröken Armbåge." His
Miss
Elbows, as in elbowing my way in.
Oh my God, that's so rude.
And and I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. Have I got some kind of room, some sort of reputation here of being, you know, forwards and exactly, take no prisoners. Wow. And then she said, because I obviously looked alarmed, and so then she's like, no, it's all good, it's good, it's great. So it's like, okay. But so a lot of lovely actors there. I enjoyed Dramaten. That was a fun place.
I love that theater. It's so fun to go there. The Royal Dramatic Theater.
Yeah,
nice.
No, that was a good place. But so I think the main feeling I had was that they were very down to earth. We had lunch together. We sat down and chatted about things, and there were lots of other projects. Benny always had other little projects going on, and so you learned a little bit about them. There were records recorded by other performers that they wanted to produce. There was his folk music that he kept recording and the bands he created. I mean, he and Lars Rudolfsson, that was the director of Kristina från Duvemåla, after that big party at Cirkus, I think that was where they realized that they were really quite good at playing together, because it turned out that Lars, who is a director in Stockholm, plays the accordion really well. And so they became this gang that just wanted to create more and more folk music. So that was some sideline he had going.
That's so interesting. I don't think a lot of people know that about them, that they are so interested in folk music.
Yeah, and Benny has a band. It's called Benny Andersson Orchestra. Bow.
Yeah.
Is that the band that they started?
Yeah, so Lars is in that band, at times. And people come and go. But there's a lot of musicians there that were part of the orchestra at Kristina. And then there's a few friends from the Orsa Spellemän and the guys from the real sort of folk musicians. So Benny, he leads that gang. He loves that.
And I've heard he also has a choir. I don't know how regular the choir is, but with a lot of famous Swedish women singers, and that they have performed at certain...
Yeah, I don't know if it's a regular. I know that because of Kristina från Duvemåla, there was suddenly... I mean, that musical sort of hoovered up everyone in Sweden, you know. So they started in Malmö and then moved to Gothenburg and then up to Stockholm. And by then some people had come with it and moved with it, but not everyone. So you end up having such a big cast that have been in Kristina från Duvemåla. And so you've got a massive catalogue of good singers and you know what they sound like. And so I think to them, who had never done anything like it, it became an interesting source of knowledge and talent that they could then do other projects from that. So they were very good at HR. There was an awful lot of fruit baskets and flowers and just fun parties and
very good.
Big celebrations. After a few months, Görel would go, I think we need a party. You know, it's like what theatre producers can do that, you know.
Yeah.
So big success.
So you obviously have extensive theatre background, but it doesn't end with you. You have passed that on to your daughter.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about her?
So she wants to be in musical theatre. She wants to be on stage. So she's applied to a few different schools, 3 in the UK and some here in the US. So she got into Cornish. So we'll see if she decides to do that, take that path. And this is, again, a lovely town to start in. I think it's a really good place to start, or a really good place to end up. I mean, she was telling me about some of the actors who are part of the ensemble theatre casts here at the Fifth Avenue and at ACT, how well looked after they feel and how much work they can get after all. I guess they're not a huge group, but still there is solidarity and support there. And I think that's very cool.
And she is in a play that's going to be playing here on the 12th and the 18th of April.
Yes, she's at Fifth Avenue Theatre doing 4 shows in the Rising Star Project. And this is a really cool thing. So if you don't know, it's the Fifth Avenue Theatre that have a teen program where a group of teenagers, they obviously have to audition, can take over a show. So they have the adult production. This one's called Something's Afoot. And then after that run, the teenagers come in and they do both the cast, they will be backstage, they will run the stage management, they will be in the orchestra pit, and they get the opportunity to shadow the grown-ups for a few weeks and learn how a big theatre operates, a proper sort of Broadway-style theatre. And then they get to do 4 shows of it. And so it's intense, crazy intense, long, long nights. So high school in the morning, back into the theatre in the evening, and all weekend. So she is really tired.
And she's not only part of it, she has the lead.
Yeah,
one of the leads.
One of the leads, yeah. It's a murder mystery, and she's got a significant part, let's say that.
Yes.
And she's got a lot of fun singing. So yeah, that'll be really fun.
We have ABBA night coming up here at the Swedish Club. Have you ever been to ABBA night?
I have not.
Oh, so you have to come this year.
Do you have outfits?
You bring your own.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole place will be made up, and there's going to be signature drinks, and there's going to be a ABBA band, tribute band, a new band for the Swedish Club. So it's going to be fantastic. And bars, and you can buy food. And so with your experience with the real ABBA, what are your thoughts about how ABBA is perceived here in the United States? It's very you associated with the 70s and disco, and
I don't think ABBA saw themselves as disco for more than a minute, really. But I mean, dance music, absolutely. But I think for them, there is so much more there. I mean, if you go and see the ABBA the museum in Stockholm, it's pretty obvious that there's a big sort of big journey that they made musically with ABBA, and so I think it's great that they're so popular here. I mean, it's crazy, and it's great fun that they're being produced again. And I just heard from Görel, she was telling me that chess is back on the map and people are wanting to do chess again.
Oh,
and I'm sort of thinking, gosh, okay, that's obviously the Russian, Western, Cold War thing, maybe, I don't know. But it's got a bit of a cult following, and I think my daughter is sort of into it, so suddenly there's 18-year-olds that are listening to this music and loving what they find, because there's quite a lot to find.
Mm-hmm.
You should listen to As Good As New, that song. Oh my God, it's so good.
As Good As New.
The beginning, so good. Love the violins. Yeah, it's a good one.
So you mentioned a few theaters here in Seattle, the Fifth Avenue ACT, Seattle Rep. What about some smaller theaters that we might not be aware of?
So there's Village Theatre in Issaquah, which is a lovely theatre. They also have a really good program for kids, where my daughter is currently doing the Institute, which is every Monday evening, where they get to just deep dive into dancing and singing and acting.
Yeah, that's really good. My kids did that last year, actually, and it's so professional. Yeah. And what's happening at the Village Theatre?
So they've got a new season coming up with lots of musicals. They do new musicals too, which is something that's really hard as an audience to love the sound of, because you don't know what it is. You got to take a chance and go and actually listen to it. And so that will be a glorious thing to do, to go and support new musicals. You have no idea what you might find. But they need that support so that we can get new stories, new musicals that aren't based on books or something that someone already, a movie. But they've got some good stuff coming up down there. I know they're doing The Color Purple. They've got Legally Blonde. I think they've got Camelot. I mean, there's a good stuff there.
Wow, those are well known.
So big musicals. So the Village Theatre, lovely stuff.
Legally Blonde has to be on my schedule.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sofia, for spending this time with us and for sharing your knowledge about yourself, about theater, but most of all about ABBA.
It was wonderful to hear from Sofia all of the interesting stuff. I mean, I was trying to keep up because there was a lot of names I did not know.
Yes.
How they went back into folk music, which I think is interesting.
Yes.
And then the musicals before, I have to get into those musicals for sure.
And I think too, what Sofia was talking about was all of that was happening after ABBA was ABBA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Second Life.
Second Life for sure. I think it would be interesting to maybe talk a little bit about ABBA as ABBA.
Yeah, before.
Yeah, considering ABBA had a long career as ABBA, and then they've had a long career after, at least Björn and Benny, from what we understand from Sofia's experience. And it's funny, I even heard that people have a hard time telling Björn and Benny apart, which I think is so strange, because obviously you can tell them apart, Stina, right?
Yeah, you should be able to. I mean, I cannot.
You can't?
I can't tell. I mean, unfortunately, I probably can't tell any member of ABBA out of a pickup, out of a random lineup. But that's not the point. The Swedes should know the difference.
Yes. And some of us have had more practice.
Oh,
too.
okay, good. You guys are playing the matching game, it sounds like.
I started being an ABBA fan when I was 10 years old.
Oh, fair enough.
And this is many, 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 many years
Yeah,
later.
I can definitely tell the Jonas Brothers apart, so I understand what that means.
I cannot.
And you could put a gun to my head and I could never tell.
I remember this funny story with language where, like, I was in dagis in Sweden. Dagis is, or used to be what we call preschool.
Or daycare.
Yeah, daycare and preschool. Yeah, daycare. And I remember I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and we were playing and we were singing on the playground, and we didn't know English, obviously, but we were singing songs like Mamma Mia and like making up the lyrics as small Swedish children. And I still have like Mamma Mia, Gira Gora Gay. Like, it's all made up nonsense, but we were singing it because we didn't know English.
We did the same thing.
You did?
Oh yeah, wrote it out phonetically.
I have it still in my head.
Yes, we have it on paper.
I didn't even think about that. All of the songs are in English.
Yes.
Well, I can tell a little bit about the ABBA story.
Yeah.
It actually began more than 5 decades ago.
Wow.
Björn and Benny, they were born in 1945 and 1946. They're boomers. They met for the first time when they were both playing music in different bands. Björn was in Hootenanny Singers, and that was a popular folk music band. And Benny was playing in the biggest group at the time, the Hep Stars.
The Hep Stars?
Have you heard of them, Stina?
I have heard of them. They were a little different than the Hootenanny Singers. They were a little more, maybe Beatles wannabes.
Oh, probably, because this was all happening in 1966, according to my research, when they first met. So they were only like 20 and 21 years old when they met and became friends. Is this giving a little bit John Lennon and Paul McCartney?
It is.
I think so.
It is.
And only a few weeks later, they wrote their first song together. And Benny had already worked with Stig Andersson, or as Sofia called him, Stickan Andersson, who's a famous producer. And he came aboard and became their producer when they started their projects together.
And he wrote some of the songs too.
Oh, so, he did. He contributed like a lot of lyrics specifically, right?
Yes.
Yeah, people don't know that. I wasn't aware of that, because otherwise, usually it's Björn who writes the lyrics, I think, and Benny writes the music.
I think so.
And then actually in 1969, they met their future wives. And the 2 women who became their fiancées and then wives, and then they became the group ABBA. And they were actually first called just Björn, Benny, Annifrid, and Agneta. And then they changed their name to use the first letters of their first names to ABBA. Genius. And they had to, apparently, I don't know exactly the details, but there was a company selling like Swedish sill, herring, fish that's called ABBA. It's still there, right, Stina? Do you know anything more about that? So they had to kind of ask permission?
I think they did.
Right. To use the same name.
Yeah.
So doubling up the word ABBA can both be something you go to the Scandinavian specialty store here in Seattle and buy some
or your
sill.
favorite band.
Or your favorite band. And then they had their first big success as the group ABBA in 1973 when they entered the Eurovision Song Contest with the song Ring, Ring. Such a genius title too. I mean, it works in so many languages.
Such a good song.
Ring, Ring.
But they didn't win the Swedish...
No.
They didn't win?
No, but that happened later in 1974. And now this is the biggest success probably of all times, when they had the song Waterloo and they won the final Eurovision contest in Brighton that year.
Wow.
And that's what we have all seen that video when they are dancing. This is what we should try and, copy the outfits for the ABBA party.
From that video.
Yeah. Isn't it like the blue tall boots or whatever, glittery? Oh. It's epic.
It is
I
epic.
like it.
And I could just a little side story, but I got married in 1997, and for my bachelorette party, so ABBA wasn't super popular. There was kind of in between ABBA and Mamma Mia. And I was dressed up as Frida, and we might find a picture of that somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
Yes. And I got to go around the biggest park, or one of the bigger parks in Stockholm, and sell memberships to ABBA fan club dressed as Frida. It was very...
Do you still have the costume? Because the party's coming up.
I don't have the costume,
but
I do have a picture of it.
We'll still have her be outside making people sign up to be a part of the fan club.
Okay, we have to post that picture on
We
Instagram.
will. We will find it. I'm sure we will. So what else about the history? Because I did not know about the fishing, the shared name, because I wouldn't think back then that would be an issue. It seems like such an original name, but clearly not. They had to ask for licensing permission.
Yep. And they both of the brands have coexisted, so it worked out.
That's insane too, because if it was an American company, they would have been squashed already. They would have been asked to change their name.
Yes.
Well, back in the day, it was kind of a stigma to just being a Eurovision Song Contest win.
Yes.
It wasn't as high culture or as
like American Idol. Like if you won American Idol, you're popular to some people, but not all the way.
It was frowned upon, looked down on a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But they kept going though, because then they came out with Mamma Mia, who was a big success. It was a #1 hit for 10 weeks in Australia, and the world kind of was caught up in ABBA fever, and they went on and on. So in the mid 1970s, 1975, 1976. They had really, firmly confirmed their spot, on the music industry map.
Yeah.
And do you know which song was the biggest hit in the United States?
Can I guess?
Yeah.
I would think it's Dancing Queen.
It's correct. Did you look? It's actually ABBA's only #1 hit. They have had other in the US. They have had other ones on the top 10, but this is the only #1 on the US charts.
So that makes a lot of sense to me, because my first experience with ABBA, I feel like, was at parties, and it was one of the dance songs. Like there's a selection of 10 songs where you put that on and people are getting on the dance floor. You just hear once that comes in, suddenly everybody would rush to the floor, and I didn't understand that. So to me, it was always associated with the dance song. It's the party song.
I have a great personal anecdote. I don't know if I should tell it, but when I was younger, living here in California in my 20s, I was briefly dating a guy that I wasn't that interested in. And to impress me, I think it was for my birthday, he had a whole band perform in his house Dancing Queen for me, because Swedish. I was Swedish. He still didn't win me over.
I was going to say, why are you not married to him now?
That sucks, because you said you weren't into him, so I can see how that was another, he just fell down the hill with that. It's oh, guy.
Too much effort. Yeah. Too much. But it was a great memory. It is a great song.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's a great song.
And when the king got married to the Swedish king got married to the queen that he's still married to, in 1976, they had this, the day before the wedding, they had this performance at the opera, and ABBA sang Dancing Queen to Queen Sylvia.
Wow. So it really is that song.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and they were dressed up in 1700s,
garb.
Yeah.
She was the dancing queen.
That's kind of cool, kind of casual vibe for the queen and
right?
the king
Yeah.
to have
right.
a pop. But that shows you that ABBA has definitely moved up
Yes.
the ranks from being low bro culture to be high royal
Totally.
culture.
Royal.
And they continued being a very successful band throughout the 1970s. They had the Gimme Gimme Gimme, big single in 1979. They toured Canada, United States, Europe. In 1980, they toured Japan. And that was actually their last tour and their last concerts during that tour, because after the success with The Winner Takes It All and the album Super Trooper, they actually... both couples got divorced.
Wow.
1981 and 1980. And that was kind of the end. They worked together for a while, but then they split up, and starting in 1982, Björn and Benny went on to write musicals, beginning with Chess.
That I just learned about.
Yes.
Big success. And then they went on to their career.
Yeah.
That's wow. Just like the Beatles.
Yes, you are right.
That's
What happened
like
to the
the
women? We should have a separate podcast episode about what happened to Frida and Agneta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Frida was actually somewhat part of Mamma Mia, the musical in the beginning. Financially, she was part of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Life After ABBA.
Yeah, Life After ABBA. Because I feel like in America, the life before Mamma Mia, at least for a certain generation, is unknown. Like it's just Mamma Mia the musical, and then it's like, oh, Swedes wrote the music. Okay, cool.
But when you think about it, like they were really young, and like when they split up ABBA in 1981 or 1982, and I mean these guys were born in the mid 40s. I mean they were like
only in their 40s.
They were really, really young still. Not even, right?
Not even,
like
yeah. 35.
I guess. So obviously it makes sense that they had a whole,
Second
other
life.
career.
Yeah.
Tell me more about the musical. Yeah.
So, so like Karin said, ABBA broke up in 1982, and Mamma Mia the musical didn't come out till 1999. So there's a big gap there.
That's my year.
Oh, there you go.
That means it's 20. That means it's almost 25 years old.
It is.
They were waiting. They were waiting for you.
Thank you.
It's a long wait, though.
And I actually think so. We're in beginning of April, and Mamma Mia the musical premiered April 6th, 1999. So that's 25 years ago on Saturday.
Wow.
So,
I'm going to watch all of them.
Yes.
I'm going to watch all of them.
So Mamma Mia is a jukebox, what you call a jukebox musical, where you use music that is already written and you write a musical around it. And when Sofia talked a little bit about this, but producer Judy Kramer, she came to Björn and Benny already in 1983, and she had heard The Winner Takes It All and thought, there's a musical somewhere in here. And they were not super interested to begin with. And I think, again, what Sofia referred to, that they thought this was going to be a musical about ABBA. And they were kind of done. They needed a break. And they were knee-deep into Chess, which was their big project. But then they kept talking, and when it turned out that this was actually, when they saw the script and saw that this is nothing about ABBA, this is a story about a girl who's trying to find out who's her dad out of three possible options, they got a little more interested. And they worked on it, and it was a director came in. Her name was Phyllis Lloyd, and Katherine Johnson wrote the book for the musical. And in 1999, it was premiering. And of course, they called it Mamma Mia after their huge hit, Mamma Mia. And I don't know how much you have listened or seen Mamma Mia.
Oh, so many times. So many times.
And I have this might not be as hot of a take that I think it is.
Well, let's see.
Let's see. So are you guys familiar with a song that ABBA wrote? It's called Bang a Boomerang.
Yes. Bang, bang a boomerang.
Okay, yes.
One of my favorites, that Doggies.
Isn't that a good one?
It's so good.
So this is my hot take. In the script of the musical, one of the potential dads is whatever his name is. He's from Australia.
Harry, maybe?
Yeah, I think it is Harry.
Yeah. And there's really no reason for him to be Australian. In the later movie, he's Swedish. And I think, this is what I think. In the script, they were originally thinking they were going to have Bang and Boomerang in the musical. And then that had to be cut for whatever reason, but they kept the Australian.
That's I like that conspiracy. I would be
Right?
I would be fine believing that. Honestly, it makes sense because I guess there really is no reason he's Australian.
So if you're listening to this and you know, please contact us. The musical, of course, was a huge success. It played in London. It has played all over the world. It had toured. I think I've seen it 5 times in Seattle. And it's fantastic. And then in 2008, they decided to make a movie out of the musical, as we are all well aware.
That's the time. That's when I stepped into the scene of ABBA. That's when I learned about it.
And of course, we know that this takes place in Greece. And I have heard actually from more than one person that they were surprised that the music came from Sweden because they thought, this must be Greek.
Oh, 100%. Prior to working here and learning more about ABBA in general, that's a Greek group.
Yeah.
Only because of that movie.
There's no connection. It was not even filmed in Greece. I understand it was filmed in Croatia because I have a distant relative who was an extra. It's a beautiful island outside of Croatia.
But like my American brain was like, shot in Greece, music must be from Greece. And they're speaking in English, so there's no real reason why I believe that they're Greek. There's not one reason, but that's why.
And most Americans, I think, probably think about Mamma Mia as a movie and not even have any idea about the history of the musical, maybe.
Oh yeah, that's like a backpedal in my mind. And like, it seemed like movie than musical, because the only time I've seen the musical was like at a small production. So it was it wasn't like a Fifth Avenue. It wasn't that it wasn't well put together.
No.
They did a great job, but it wasn't Meryl Streep at least.
Yeah, and of course the movie had an amazing cast with Meryl Streep, Pierce Brosnan, Colin Firth, Stellan Skarsgård, who's actually Swedish and father of Alexander Skarsgård, and Amanda Seyfried, who played Sophie. And I think this was her big break, really. Playing in Mamma Mia. She was pretty young.
Yeah, because I think I'm giving her credit. She was also in Mean Girls. I was going to say that's her big break, but I feel like that came out after this, so it may have been in tandem.
But and
have you noticed that on the Stellan Skarsgård character has a Swedish flag on his boat?
So that character is the one that is Australian in the musical. Yeah.
Yes.
And there are also cameos in the movie by Björn. He's playing a Greek god, and Benny is playing the piano in one scene.
What?
Oh yeah, I saw Benny playing the piano, but I
told you I couldn't identify them. They're in the movie.
They're in the movie.
I've seen it so many times. I know what scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
They just look like extra.
I'll send you the actual place in the movie.
And I'm not 100% sure where the world premiere of the film was, but most of the media attention was focused on the Swedish premiere, and that all the ABBAs were there and the cast, and they had the party at Rival Theater in Stockholm, which is owned by Benny Andersson.
Oh, that's nice.
And this was in July 2008. And that was the first time that all four members of ABBA were photographed together since 1986.
Wow.
So that was pretty amazing.
20 years something.
Yeah.
To get over the breakup.
That makes sense. So.
I read some interesting, I thought, facts about how well Mamma Mia did.
Mm-hmm.
It grossed almost $700 million worldwide. And the production budget was $52 million. That's a lot of money.
I would want to know also too, maybe you have it, but I would want to know too their streaming numbers now too, because that's like a second life for them.
It is,
right? They're on Netflix now, and I feel like there's a whole other generation getting that same fervor. So
I don't have that, but
I'm sure it's not easily accessible. They do not want that out there, but I would imagine streaming is double that.
It's a big success, even with like my youngest kids who are in middle school now, 12 and 14, and we watch it all the time.
Yes.
And I hear, we went to the movies when there was like a second movie coming out a few years back, and I think my kids are telling me that's coming a third movie.
They are doing a third one.
So it's still very, it's going from generation to generation, I feel like.
It is.
I feel like if it wasn't a jukebox musical, then it wouldn't be as successful. I think, at least for me, the storyline is what introduced me to everything else that's ABBA. Like, I can enjoy the rest of their music, but the fact that the plot it's so heartbreaking and romantic, and there's all of the facets of it, I think that's what's so enticing, at least for, young girls. I think that's a big draw.
I think you're right.
I thought you were going to say Grease. That was like the setting of Grease.
Also, but Grease as well is now on the top of my list, probably from this movie. So definitely would love to travel to Greece.
We had a guy come over to our house. He's going to put in new carpet.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling us that he's getting married in Greece with his fiancée. And I said, is she from Greece? And is she Greek? And he said, no. But every day after school, she would watch Mamma Mia, the movie. And now she wants to get... So we went to Greece to get engaged, and now we're going to Greece to get married.
Wow, she's living my future life. That sounds
Right?
amazing, and that's the exact logic that I have.
And they should have a band playing Dancing Queen at the wedding. Hopefully.
That'd
Yes.
be so sweet.
So anyways, the movie became the highest grossing live action musical of all time. It was surpassed in 2017 by Beauty and the Beast. But it was, and it was also the highest grossing movie directed by a woman, also until 2017 when Wonder Woman surpassed them. And now, of course, Greta Gerwig's Barbie is number one, but Mamma Mia is still on the list, on the top 20 list. So it was a huge audience success. It wasn't necessarily a huge success with the critics.
What do they know?
What do they know?
Who
And
cares?
this is, who cares? I mean, they're laughing all the way to the bank.
I mean,
don't think- but this is kind of a funny critic who said, I guess this is as close as we'll get to see A-list actors doing drunken karaoke.
And maybe that is why I like it. Maybe that's why I like. I will never see Meryl Streep be that free at all.
Or Pierce Brosnan.
yeah.
And they were doing this tongue in cheek.
Yeah, that's so. I agree with that reviewer, but not in a bad way.
No,
I agree
no,
in
no,
a
no.
positive. I think that's a positive.
I think it is. It totally
Me
is.
too.
So this, of course, has been hugely successful and has a life of its own and it's still very popular. But then in 2016, this was actually Björn's idea. He wanted to do something even more interactive. He saw how popular this was. So he created Mamma Mia the Party. And if you haven't been, if you get the chance, you should go. So they built up in Stockholm at close to Skansen. Or Gröna Lund. It's an amusement park. They've built up a Greek tavern. So you buy a ticket that includes everything. You're there for 4 hours. You get a Greek feast served at your table. All the waiters, everybody who works there are singers and actors. And you are part of the play. And the play takes it's a continuation story from the musical. And there's like dancing and singing, and then it's a completely crazy. And then after everybody has eaten and you're sitting there, they turn it all into a disco.
Wait, I had no idea. This is separate from the museum, you mean?
Yes.
I could go to this summer.
You have to buy tickets, but it's
you have to go.
I'm going.
Oh wait, what's the price?
When I went, I think we paid like 1,500 kroners.
$150.
Which is about $150.
Oh, yeah, that seems about right.
It doesn't include drinks, but it includes all the dinner, and it's like a 3-course dinner served, on your table, and then there's the music, performance, and it's amazing.
Can you bring kids, or is it?
I took my kids.
I would do this actually. I'm going to look it up.
I think you should specifically not bring your daughters if they're going to torture you with that song.
That's
you should
true.
just go have a good
That's
time
true.
and take
And
pictures
it's
and
just
send it to them.
perpetuating this dream of going to Greece when they should be dreaming of going to Sweden.
There you go.
Yes. There you go.
I can't wait. I have to look at that. That sounds so fun.
I went with my daughters when they were maybe, let's say 10 and 13 or something. And we walked out of there, and my older daughter said, "Can we go again?"
Oh,
it is so amazing.
I didn't even know about this.
Yeah.
Once in a lifetime, it sounds like.
I also have my younger daughter is very picky with what she eats. The food was not to her liking, so I told my sister afterwards, I paid $150 for her to eat potatoes and olives.
And listen to the music that she can listen to at home.
Yeah. But it was so amazing. And it was in Stockholm. It's still in Stockholm. And then they now have it in Gothenburg as well, and then also in London and Amsterdam. And the hope is, I think, to somehow bring it over to the United States.
Bring it here. Bring it here.
We should work on that, Stina.
We would be the best.
Bring it
Swedish
here.
club would be a good venue.
Well, yeah. I mean, it would be great. It would be great.
Yes. They actually talk about now ABBA tourism to Stockholm.
Yes, I figure that has to be a thing because I mean, again, if you want to go to Sweden, there's the trifecta that we know about. We talked about IKEA. ABBA's the next on the list.
And you can go to Mamma Mia the Party, which is absolutely fantastic. But then there's ABBA the Museum, which opened in 2013. And it is spectacular. You learn about ABBA. You walk through the history of ABBA before they were ABBA. So they all had solo, the boys have the bands like you talked about, and the girls had solo careers. And then you go through the early days of ABBA, and then you get to go through Mamma Mia. And I mean, it's amazing. See all this.
It's really nice. And I actually went there a few years back when I was visiting Stockholm, and I didn't even know that it existed because, I've been living abroad for so long, but it was right in that area where you want to go when you visit Stockholm. Like you said, Skansen, Gröna Lund, all the museums. So it's a perfect location. And I remember they had the costumes, and it's really cool to see, actually. Well worth a visit, Camille, for your next Sweden trip.
Oh, yes, on my next trip.
It is so. And they have one room that they had one room. They don't have it anymore. But it was a round room, and then they had like jumping ropes that were attached to the wall, and then you could take up the handle. And I was there with my sister and our two daughters. And our two daughters said, "What is this? We don't understand." And for me and my sister, who grew up playing ABBA, that was what we used. The end of the jump rope was our microphone.
Oh.
So we got into this room and we're like, we know what
exactly.
we're doing.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's insane that they knew that was such a thing to like use a jump. That's so specific.
And such good research before they did the museum.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they remove it because it's so outdated now when people the kids just do their own TikTok
people who remember are
they
too
put
old.
instructions. They're like, this is what you're supposed to do with the jump rope.
In front of a mirror singing with the jump rope. They don't do that anymore. They
I think they changed the exhibit, so they have something else in that room now.
Oh, funny.
Interesting. Have you both seen the second Mamma Mia movie? What is your opinion on that one?
I did see it in the theater, but I feel like it was a little bit more forgettable. The first one has stuck more.
I agree.
I think for me, logic started to disappear, and that's when I got irritated. Because in what world am I supposed to believe that Cher is Meryl Streep's mother?
Oh.
I forgot about that part.
That's what
funny.
I know.
That's what took me out. And then the plot. If we're here just to sing the songs, I don't think we have to hold on to plot points that don't matter.
I agree.
Fun performance though of Cher coming in.
Oh, I love Cher.
So cool.
But just put Cher in it. You don't have to say that's
she
the
doesn't
mom.
have to be. No,
you're right. I didn't think about that.
Cher looked fantastic in that movie, and she's mother. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Way.
Grandma,
No way. Yeah.
No.
Well, I know they are making a third, or there were talks about the third one, so we'll see what that one is about.
I think everybody who was part of it probably wants to.
It's so fun though. I mean, I don't even care if the plot is bad because the music, the experience, it's just so happy.
Well, that too. I feel like their golden album, I think it's like the hits album. I feel like most of those songs are in Mamma Mia, but their catalog is so extensive. Like, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you're only listening to the songs that are on the Mamma Mia soundtrack. Those are great. Those are like the Billboard 100s of their songs now. There's so many other.
Absolutely.
There's
songs.
so many others. Like I remember as a child, like everybody had their favorite. Like my grandmother had her favorite song, and it was Fernando. Do you remember that song?
Oh,
Fernando.
So there's like so many to choose from.
Chiquitita.
Chiquitita was a good one. The bananas, though, I think about always like the brand of the bananas, Chiquitita.
Yeah. Routing back to our ABBA night, because our ABBA night, if you've not been, and unfortunately, as Karin mentioned, she's not been.
No, I'm excited.
I've only helped plan it. I've actually not been to ABBA night, but I'm so excited. I just got my outfit. It's very colorful. I'm doing disco as well. I don't think I'm going to be as authentic. What are you planning on wearing?
I think I'm going to go with this white jumpsuit that I have in my closet that I have never worn.
Oh,
I've
nice.
just been saving it for this unknown occasion for some reason.
Saving it for this moment.
Because I'm thinking the 70s and ABBA, somehow I'm thinking white, right?
Yeah.
And I have some white boots too. I don't have the cool sequined or glittery boots. Maybe you have some, Stina. You will probably do better.
Exactly. Yes. She's got the platforms on the ready. Yeah.
course. No, I don't. But yeah, I haven't decided yet. I do have one of those white T-shirts with that.
Oh yeah,
the print.
Yeah.
You know, the yellow or the blue, depending on which one.
That would be cool too.
Yes, I did. I have dressed up as ABBA. Besides my bachelorette party, I did it in 3rd grade. Every Friday, it was 4 of us. We did ABBA for our fun hour. So I used curlers in my hair. I went with curlers all day in school so I could take them out right before the performance. I was all curly.
That's fantastic. So I guess I'm looking for that same commitment on the 26th. That's what I'm hearing.
That's not what I meant. But
Oh, okay. But again, if you haven't heard me before, I hope you got your ticket or you're going to get your ticket because we will sell out. ABBA Night at the Swedish Club. It's going to be on April 26th. Doors open at 8:30, or you can get the VIP meet and greet experience, get to meet the band, the FABA show, and you get early access at 7:15. We hope to see you there. I really do. I hope to interact with a lot of you. I hope to take your picture of your outfit. There's also competitions for the best outfit that's determined by the band. The Dancing Queen, so the best dressed woman, receives tickets to next year's ABBA Night.
oh, nice.
And a souvenir drink.
Ooh.
And then the best dressed man also gets tickets next year. So I hope to see you there in your best garb.
It's an epic night.
Looking forward to seeing everybody there.
So am I. What else is happening at the club in April? Because this is the first day, so there's got to be a lot on the docket, Stina.
Yes, we have a lot coming up. I want to plug one event especially. It's our Finnish choir. It is a very unique opportunity. It's a Swedish-Finnish choir that are visiting. It's a 66-person choir.
Oh my gosh.
And we have tickets. It's going to be Tuesday, April 16th, and they are performing together with 2 local choirs. And they're called the Academic choir, I think. It's on our website.
The Academic Society is the
Academic Societies. And they are absolutely amazing. So I really want to plug that event. And then, of course, every second Wednesday, we have our fika. Everybody's welcome. It's free, and you can bring something or you can just show up. And then on the second Friday every month, we have our Makers Morning, where we meet in the library and we make whatever we are working on at the moment. It can be knitting, can be crocheting, can be painting. And then afterwards we go up and have lunch in the bar.
Anything from the teaching desk? I know classes, we're still doing registration for spring, but is there any new things coming up?
Yes, spring quarter just started, and we have a multitude of classes. As before, we have the online Zoom classes that I'm teaching. We have in-person classes at the club with Brit. And you can, like you said, you can still register online. And we will then have a short break before summer, and there will be more classes in the summer as well, online and in person. But still able to join the classes. So
Please do join. Yeah, learn the language. It's really fun. It's
so
really
much fun. So many interesting people that you meet also when you join the classes. They come from all walks of lives and have different connections to the Swedish culture and Swedish language and different reasons for studying. Maybe they're just going on a trip, or maybe they want to, explore their background, or they just think it's fun to learn another language.
Yeah. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Well, thank you for joining us today. Today was very fun. We were so excited to talk about ABBA, learn everything about the history. And now it sounds like we have to do more planning for our outfits for ABBA night.
And
maybe some of us more than others.
And we have to bring the ABBA experience or the ABBA party.
Yeah, the party.
Yeah, we gotta
bring
look
it
up
to Seattle.
Yeah, we got to see how we can do that.
It's
Bring it to the
thing.
Swedish Club.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.